The Arizona Coyotes are taking on the LA Kings again, but this time at the Mullet Arena. Let's go ahead and give you a preview.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I'm your host, Robyn Leoni, alongside Matthew Jacobson. We have today's episode brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Team Sleeper terms of use for details. We got a great show on today's episode. We are going to get up a little preview for the Arizona Coyotes versus LA Kings. It is the second home game of the season, Matthew. So we'll finally get another taste of Mullet Magic. 7 games in and only the second home game. Gotta love it.
I mean, it's better than last year.
True.
What was last year like a
12
mini
home
road
games
trip and then 14 road games?
Yeah,
Something stupid like that.
Yeah, with the first 3 home games that there was that they had was like. What was it? That was when they had the annex was still getting built, so they had the away locker room inside the community ice area. Everyone was making fun of it.
It was such an embarrassment to the league. It's so embarrassing to the league that they had temporary lockers for 4 games. It was so embarrassing.
Yep. Just no one's ever had to go through renovations ever before. But you know what? That's okay because that was last year. Now we're going to this year in this game against the Kings. Second game against the Kings in just this week. Again, like you said it, this one is finally at home. We'll see exactly how this one goes down. It should be an interesting one, right?
Yeah, it should be. Do you want to start with a brief recap of what happened last time these two teams met?
Let's hear it.
So the last time these two teams met was on Tuesday, part of that big push the NHL had for like a frozen frenzy or whatever. Super disappointing, by the way, because rightfully so, a lot of people brought up the weird start times and the attendance was not very good across the board for that. But hey, we got a lot of teams that need to relocate other than just the Coyotes, apparently.
Jets and Flames.
Anyway, so Jack McMahon gets the scoring started off at the 2-minute 59-second mark, his first from Boyd and Michelli. And then in a 4-minute and 21-second span, there are 3 unanswered. It's 3-1. The Coyotes outscore them 2-1 in the second period, and the only 2 third-period goals go to the Kings for a 6-3 finish with an empty net goal. And Connor Ingram, and I do agree with Craig Morgan. We said it last show. The goaltending was kind of due. They were kind of due for getting blown up. He stops 6 out of 9 shots. Nice. 6.67 save percentage. Carl Mucka comes in, stopping 16 out of 18 with an 8.89. Not the greatest showing. However, you got the bad showing out of the way on the road. Mullet, they tend to play a little better.
They do, because we call it Mullet Magic for a reason. Because for some reason, the Coyotes just play so well at Mullet Arena. They had was it close to the best home record?
I think it was top 3 or top 5 last year. It was ridiculously consistent, a solid, rock solid home record. And then they were like bottom 3, bottom 5 in road record for the season. So it was a tale of 2 Yotes when you really think about it.
It really was, but we're glad. I think the thing that was sucked, I kind of want to go back to what we were talking about last year, where they went through that 12 or 14 game or however long it was road trip. That sucks, right? If you're anybody who's on the road, away from your home for such a long time, you don't want to go through that. So it kind of made sense maybe why when they're away versus home, it is also with the fact that hey, Mullet Arena is loud. Again, if you've never been inside the arena, you cannot judge it. because you only see what's on the outside versus like actually the noise on the inside.
No, I can judge it. It's half empty every night. No one's there to cheer, and they're all glorified road games. I forgot. That's all. It's all bad. It's all it's all horrible.
Anyways, the with this game though, it's going to be interesting to see uh, who steps up. We are, like I mentioned earlier this week, we are still waiting for Logan Cooley to get his first goal. Luckily, Logan Cooley, as you mentioned also earlier this week, Logan Cooley is still the NHL's rookie leader in points. So it's something not to complain about. He's still up there. He's still killing it. Just it's all assists.
I just want to see if it's changed at all in the last couple of games. Ridley Grieg is now the offensive points leader, technically because I think he has a goal. Technically, but it's also when you have the staggered games, you got someone playing after. He's still top two.
Right.
So, what do you think the Coyotes' mindset's probably going to be coming out of that road loss? Because that was a game that, let's be honest here, they probably should have had. You start off hot, and then you start to get something going in the middle of that game, and then just can't capitalize. You get a goal brought back that would have been Barrett Hayton's first of the year. What do you think the mindset has to be heading into this game?
I think a lot of this goes with I think a lot of players have had this before. They have the mentality going in. They don't even they take bits and pieces of what they need to from the previous game. In this one, in this case, it's just like, you know what, that we're just gonna put this one behind us, not even worry about it, and we're back home, start fresh again. It's a rivalry game, so they're gonna want to put out their best. So they're always gonna put out, gonna look at the film. They're going to focus on what exactly it is that needs to work on. And as we mentioned, they made a lot of mistakes the previous game. Again, fundamental mistakes that they probably, once they look back at the film, they're like, oh, yeah, we can work on that.
Yeah. And also, it's weird that the Kings are still a rival despite being in a different division. I'm probably never going to get used to not being in the Kings division. It's weird. It's really weird.
Hey, let's look at it this way. The Tucson Roadrunners and San Diego Gulls got the I-8 border war or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got what separates Phoenix and Los Angeles? The I-10. So it's like the same thing,
I guess, but I don't know. Might be a small bit of a stretch. The I-10 rivalries for ASU and those losers down south. But anyway, we will get back to this after a word from our sponsor on the show.
Absolutely. Today's episode is brought to you by Parkview Advance. As a business owner, do you realize there are times when receivables might fall behind? That doesn't mean you should fall behind on vendor payments, payroll, or rent. More than 25 years, Parkview Advance has helped businesses secure working capital from $5,000 to $1.5 million. Parkview Advance can approve your working capital in as little as 24 hours. It's a much easier process than you might imagine. We invite the many entrepreneurs that are Locked On NHL fans to learn more by calling us at 203-675-0071 or go to parkviewadvance.com. If your business needs working capital, call Parkview Advance today. Parkview Advance, helping businesses with their working capital. Once again, go to parkviewadvance.com.
And today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that way you are not hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today with Jace Medical by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com.
Thanks everyone for making once again Locked On Coyotes your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube, SiriusXM Radio app, and on Amazon for Amazon Music. You can listen ad free over Amazon Music. And to those that use SiriusXM, you can also listen to every Coyotes game on SiriusXM. Just be sure to download that app. Search up Coyotes. Every home game, every game we always post the SiriusXM channel, so you can find exactly how to listen to it. But let's get back to this show, Matthew. Keys to the game: Arizona Coyotes versus Los Angeles Kings once again. I think it should be a pretty simple one.
It should be a simple one. Keep the puck out of the net, because right now the Kings, they are first in the league at 4.5 goals for per game. The Coyotes, 2 less, 2.5. They need to keep the puck out of their own net. And yes, we already acknowledged the last game was probably just an off night. It is what it is. But you don't want to start that trend. Krov will be getting the start. It's already been confirmed by Craig Morgan. So you don't want to start a negative trend. Keep the puck out of your own net.
Yeah, you know, that completely makes sense, especially when it comes to starts, especially, right? I think if you're able to do that within the first 10 minutes, it's really able to dictate how the rest of the game is going to go. I really firmly believe that's it's like a weird thing that goes on in hockey. Maybe it's just a psychology thing that if you're let people score early and often, it hurts. It's going to hurt.
I got an interesting one. So to just extend on this a little bit, the Coyotes are 26th in goals for per game. The second key essentially has to be take advantage of LA's apparent sloppiness throughout the season, because they're 25th at goals against, goals allowed per game at 3.5. The Coyotes only allow 2.5. That's 6th in the National Hockey League. It's so weird how they struggle to score, but they tend to keep the puck out of their own net. But then again, with how well Krov and Connor Ingram have started this season, it's not exactly surprising. So it's kind of just a yin and yang for point 1 and point 2. Point 1 is keep the puck out of their own net. Point 2 is take advantage of LA's defensive holes. And you need to get the goals for per game up. This is a game to do it. I mean, they potted 3 against them in the last game. Why can't you do 3 or 4 in this game?
That makes sense, right? The Coyotes are, and the thing that pisses me off is that the fact that they are that kind of inconsistent team that you just don't know exactly how it's going to go.
You're not wrong. I'm not going to argue with.
It's just like oh my god, guys! Look, you had a game in which you go back to the freaking Islanders game where they had like 4 shots in like half the game, right? Versus the Blues game, it's different.
It was exactly 8 shots in 40 minutes, and then
yeah. Versus the Blues game in which they were looking like the dominant. Heck, even the Devils game in which they looked like they had a pretty good control of that game as well.
Yeah, I think it's just it's frustrating for me. I think the best way to describe it, we've probably said it on the show, but in case I said it a different way, I want to say it a little more clearly now. Inexperience. This team is going to need to grow. And it's kind of like the same thing I thought for the Diamondbacks this year. It's why I was never really hard on them when they started struggling. It's the fact that they're young, they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to need to build that consistency. So it's going to be a little frustrating, but I guess key to the game number 3 is just continue to work on that consistency. Because as long as you can build that rhythm, you can kind of get everyone where they need to be, the team will be just fine. It's just frustrating right now because we see the highs, we're also seeing some of those lows, and it makes you want to throw a remote control at the wall, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's just like, because you can never with this team, the lows, you're just like, didn't we just see a better game? Didn't we just see you guys dominate? So getting a control of that is really important. Um, and you're pretty head head on when mentioning the youth of this team too, because that's gonna be a part of this team whether we like it or not. But a true test of how this team is going to go through this rebuild is how they manage and grow from that inconsistency.
Yeah, and I only thing I could say is I just noticed this. We are definitely covering this. Of course, it's when you bring me on. All right, I'm the good luck charm here. We're covering this team like we expect playoffs because we expect better and higher quality from them. So we're
I mean,
here's the frustration of wanting competitive hockey every night.
look, this year I feel like our expectations are a lot higher. It's
Mhm.
like it's our like in, this is an interesting viewpoint. I'm kind of say as a little bit of a bonus before we move on to the next segment. Like the previous couple years, our expectation with the team was that it was a basement dweller team that shouldn't win games because they should only focus on um, the making sure they get the top draft pick. And kind of with that, anytime we did the over unders on points for their total points of the season, we're like it was even as low as like 62, 63. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be under. It's gonna be under. But this is the case this year, where our optimism, like I feel like we're setting our expectations higher than it should be, because we want the excitement a little bit more. We want to feel the torture that every other sports fan wants to feel.
I just want a Stanley Cup in the smallest arena in the league. That's all I want. That's my expectation. You know what? You know what? You heard it here first. The D-backs. The Coyotes are going to follow in the D-backs' footsteps. They are going to go to the Stanley Cup final this year, and there you go. The NHL is going to have a moral quandary whether or not to let them host games at Bullet Arena for the playoffs.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Can you like I kid you not? Can you imagine just the absolute rage that will go through everyone's mind if this happens?
I can imagine it, and I want it. I would gladly offer up the Cardinals for relocation if it meant I got to watch the Coyotes go on a cup run this year at the Mullet. So that way, no matter what happens, even if it's confirmed they're going to Houston, they have that cup run as the Arizona Coyotes. anyway.
Anyways, that's to recap. Let's put it in just like just a couple words or less. Your 3 keys.
All right, my 3 keys: keep the puck out of the net, put the puck in the net, consistency.
There we go. It's simple as that. It's a pretty simple 3 keys, like we mentioned. Anyways, we're gonna come back in a sec. We're gonna get to our picks of the game. We'll do that in just a moment. But first, we'll hear a quick word. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. If you want to win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. These are all possible scenarios for this season, but you have a chance to win big. You need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper as the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash if daily fantasy hockey contests. You can choose what players you want to win for that 100 times money. You can play alongside your friends and play multiple different leagues. You're not just hockey. You can do daily fantasy, NFL, NBA, MLB, college football, even all on Sleeper. And you can even talk and chat with all your friends in group in just a nice little chat functionality on the app. Connect with other fans as well. Entries can be made all in under a minute. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions applied as LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper terms of use for details. All right, Matthew. Now it's my favorite segment.
Do you like betting?
I do.
You like to gamble.
But I'm not going to be gambling all the time like the allegedly Shane Pinto did. Oh, I said it.
I I'm gonna make a video talking about that because that entire thing is just like if you want some TLDR, you can't accept copious amounts of gambling money and then suspend someone for gambling on non-NHL games. And it's like, oh well, his account was flagged. So was he betting too much? Because that's essentially what you're encouraging everyone to do. All the disclaimers are legal disclaimers. They legally have to put the disclaimers in there. But
and it's interesting that's the thing. And I kind of want to, before I get to the picks of the game, I do want to mention this really quick.
Mm-hmm.
We were only a couple years removed from another player, Evander Kane, getting accused of gambling on NHL games, and the NHL doing a massive investigation. Is like, oh no, he gambled on other games, just not the NHL, and they let him go. And there's no suspension for that.
And one thing I don't like is the defense of, oh, well, we don't know what he did. It's like, but they literally, like, they're talking about gambling related reasons, but he didn't bet on NHL games. Like, I am willing to bet, like, there's a 99.9% likelihood whatever explanation is going to be stupid. I genuinely think it's going to be stupid. Because, like, oh, well, they wouldn't have a 41 game suspension if it wasn't bad. No, I disagree. The NHL gets super weird, and I guarantee because it has to do with gambling, they have to be like the NFL and like get super serious with it.
Yeah, it certainly is interesting, but maybe we'll get to that another time, a little bit more into it another time. But anyways, let's get to our picks of the game, Matthew. We have the gambling lines all set up. And here we are. The Coyotes are underdogs once again in this game. Go figure. They are at plus 108 on the money line. Kings at minus 130. I believe it's also just a 1.5 on the puck line spread. So if you want to bet on that, you also can. Over under. So total points is 6.5 points.
All right. Let's see how I feel about this. Let's do. The Coyotes need a revenge game. Both these teams have already showed they can have 8 or 9 goals between them. However, we do tend to see more defensive matchups directly after these big scoring games so far this season. So part of me wants to say the Coyotes get a revenge win like 3-2. So I'll take the Coyotes, but under 6.5, because for some reason that's what it seems like the trend might end up being this season, where got a couple high scoring games and it goes right back to tight low scoring. So let's just go with that. Let's go with the logical bet, and then let's throw a wild card out there. Travis Boyd, anytime goal scorer.
There you go. I love that. I'm gonna be pretty similar to you. I'm gonna give the Coyotes, for the sake of, like you mentioned, revenge game, I'm gonna give them one more point, 6-2, which stays still just under, just barely actually. Yeah, that gives them the win. So those are like that really gives it to them. If I were to give a bonus on it, I'm gonna say Karel Vejmelka on a total saves for over 34 saves.
That's a conservative number. He's going to stop like 60. They always have those random games, and it's almost always at the mullet when he gets peppered all night, and I don't know how.
I mean, I think it's a fair number to have.
What's the over/under on Karel Vejmelka setting the all-time record for saves in a game? What I want to. All right, NHL.
I mean, does this include playoffs? Because remember how playoffs would go to like multiple overtimes.
Okay, but let's see. Saves in a game record. Ron Tugna of the Quebec Nordiques, 70 saves. Over/under. Karel Vejmelka tops that in his Coyotes tenure.
I mean, I'm seeing more. I mean, maybe it includes playoffs but I see Jonas Korpisalo got like 85 saves.
Was that in that like quadruple overtime playoff game? Or am I thinking of the wrong thing? Because the NHL, on the NHL website right here for records, it says Ron Tugna at 70 saves.
Yeah, I think. Yes, that was that overtime game.
Mike Smith is on here with 58 saves, and
can you imagine having to save that?
Is Vejmelka anywhere on here? I'm curious because let's see, Mike Smith with the Phoenix Coyotes, 54. Let's do one more page. I just want to see if he shows up.
I mean, I think it's pretty decent down because I think it's like what his most was like 50 something.
Yes, I'm in the 50s right now. It's the Chris Mason of the Atlanta Thrashers is on here. Fun little Atlanta reference. Wait, can I just go by team? I'm gonna go by team. All right, let's see. Arizona Coyotes. Antti Ranta had 48. Mike Smith had 58. Vejmelka is on here like 5 times, but it's between 544 and 777, and it's all with 47 to 46 saves. So I think he might close another record this year if this defense keeps letting him get peppered.
I mean, this defense, I do think this defense is better than the defense we've had in the past. So I don't think that they will resort to having to use Vejmelka as much, but there will be one or two of those kind of games.
I might need to contradict myself. I'm not 100% sure about that anymore because I've seen quite a bit of inconsistency where they will be really sloppy and then really tight, really solid at forcing the opportunities to the outside, low percentage chances, and then just leaving premium areas open. So I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the defense. It kind of feels 50-50, and it really depends on which version of the defense shows up that game.
Hey, I have confidence that maybe like Dumba and Dersey will kind of help tighten things up.
I think Dumba's helping. Obviously, you already have Mosier and Valimaki. Dersey has been very surprisingly good, like ridiculously good. Not a whole lot of turnovers, not a whole lot of bad defensive plays, but there have been a few too many odd man rushes. So while I like how the defense is poking a little more and pinching a little more in the offensive zone, it's leading you're not having the Yandel pinch with McCulloch going back. You're not really seeing that like I figured you would with like Mosier or Valimaki as much. So you're having a few too many odd man rushes. So I don't know. Let's give it like 10 more games to see like which direction this starts to go a little more consistently.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, again, as you mentioned, Jersey. One thing I definitely have to mention because it's one of those kind of games. We're talking about his former team up against him again.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's on with the Coyotes and he's at home with us. So he's got to look good. He's going to look great.
He had no points against the Kings in the last matchup, but he was a +1. Fun fact, of his last 5 games, he's only been positive or neutral. So plus-minus stat I know is flawed. However, it's a decent indication of what you're helping on the line.
And I will say this too, for a defenseman who spends more time on the ice than most forwards, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a good sign. It's a supplementary stat. Take it with a grain of salt, but it helps to paint the picture.
I mean, if you want, I can take a look at his Corsi stats, but that'll be for another time.
Nope, I'm not. I might be a geek, all right, with all the magic cards I have over here. I'm not a nerd. I will not sit through a PowerPoint presentation on my own show.
You know what? I don't care. I am going to stick you and
nope, done. Bye.
Listen to. I love it. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, Sirius XM radio app, and ad-free on Amazon Music.
Nerd.
Don't forget, though, for your second listen, check out Locked On Diamondbacks World Series starting this weekend. You'll definitely want to check it out. It's Diamondbacks play in their first World Series in 22 years. Good for them. And if you got your ticket to the World Series for games 3, 4, or 5, good for you. We're jealous.
Look, I spent $120 on a Magic deck today. It's a Godzilla Commander deck. I was not spending $400 to $600 on it. Like, I will just watch the World Series at home without having to wear pants with cheaper food and better booze than go mess with that for oh my god $1,000 without fees. That's without the fees, Robyn.
Why not? Why not? I got an idea here. Why not? We'll get a group of people together, a group of friends, other sports fans, and we'll go to a sports bar and watch it there.
Or we can e-beg Mike Hazen if you're watching. Big fan. I love all the food options. Will you give me pity and let me hang out in like a trash can inside the stadium? Whenever I see off-speed pitches, I'll bang on the side of it or something and try to be useful. Just let me come in.
There we go. Anyways, once again, thanks everyone for listening to this episode. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on X at LO_Coyotes.
Locked on Cooley.
It is Locked On Cooley. I'm personally at Robyn_Leonio. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.